In Parrot's recent video, he made a decision that might destroy the server entirely, but not in the way you'd think. This is how Parrot is killing Unstable SMP. But before we go any further, let me explain what actually happened first, because understanding what Parrot did is crucial to my theory. Parrot became king of the Unstable SMP through an election. He won against Lettucek and everybody else. But the server didn't want him. The crowd literally booed him when he gave his speech since they wanted Lettuce to be king instead. So Parrot made a promise. He said if players can't spawn onto the server safely within 100 Minecraft days, he'd resign from being king. That sounds reasonable on the surface, making spawn safe so new players don't instantly die. Except here's what nobody talks about. Only 1 in 10 players made it out of spawn alive before Parrot became king. That's a 90% death rate at spawn. Keep that number in mind because it becomes critical later in the video. Parrot spent those 100 days doing 3 things. First, he killed every single wither at spawn with help from Teal, Fimada, and Horus. Withers had been terrorizing spawn for so long that getting past them was basically impossible for new players. Second, he had Horus completely rebuild spawn from scratch, making it safe so players wouldn't die from fall damage or environmental hazards. Third, he established automatic chicken farms with Frosty Vid to create unlimited food supplies for new players. By day 100, Parrot had accomplished his goal. New players were spawning in safely, praising him for saving them, thanking him for being king. The player base had grown exponentially according to the video. Parrot's kingdom grew with the influx of new players. He did it, he saved spawn, he proved he was worthy of being king. But here's the problem that's gonna destroy everything, and this is where Lettuce's warning becomes horrifying. Remember when Parrot went down to Lettuce's prison cell and asked him why people still hated him despite all his work? Lettuce said something that should have been a massive red flag. He said if he really wanted to save all the players, he could have. But then asked Parrot why didn't he choose to. Think about what that means for a second. Lettuce had the power to save spawn. He controlled the law which had thousands of members. He could have easily cleared spawn and made it safe for everyone. But he deliberately chose not to. Why would a leader who claims to protect the server choose not to save spawn? Keep this question in mind because the answer reveals everything about Unstable SMP's true nature. But before we continue, I want to ask you to subscribe. These analysis videos takes hours to research and edit, so subscribing would genuinely help a ton. Also, let me know in the comments if you noticed Lettuce foreshadowing before watching this. Here's what Parrot doesn't understand yet, but all players absolutely do understand. The withers at spawn win random acts by a player, but instead they could have a deeper meaning behind them. Parrot even says this in the video. He tells Teal it's strange that players used up so many resources on withers to use at spawn, and he thought it might be trollers or griefers, but he doesn't understand why people would take it that far. The answer is simple, and it's the same reason Lettuce never saves spawn. The server can't handle unlimited players. Unstable SMP is a hardcore Anarchy server where resources are finite, where land is limited, where every additional player means less resources for everyone else. Think about what happens now that Parrot removed that filter. Before Parrot became king, only the strongest and smartest and most determined players made it out of spawn alive. Those players earned their survival by getting past the withers and the chaos and the environmental hazards. They were the players who deserved to be on the server because they proved they could handle it. Now, everyone gets through spawn safely. Every single new player, regardless of skill or determination or preparation, gets free passage into the main server. They get free food from the chicken farms. They get protection from Parrot's infrastructure. They don't have to earn anything. And the population is growing exponentially according to the video. Let's talk about what exponential player growth means for a hardcore server with finite resources. Every player needs food constantly. They need tools, they need armor, they need building materials. The server has a limited amount of diamonds, a limited amount of ancient debris for netherite, a limited amount of land for building bases. When you have 100 players competing for those resources, the server functions. When you have 1,000 players competing for those resources, things get hard. When you have 10,000 players or even more competing for those resources, the server collapses entirely. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. And Parrot just guaranteed that question gets answered soon. because he removed the one thing keeping population sustainable. Here's where letters are the warning becomes crucial. He told Parrot sometimes you have to do whatever it takes to protect the people, and said, "You'll find out soon enough." What did Letters figure out that Parrot hasn't figured out yet? Letters understood that protecting players sometimes means making horrible decisions that seem evil on the surface. The law killed 1,000 players in the 2v1000 fight. Everyone called Letters a monster for sacrificing those players. But what if that sacrifice was necessary? What if Letters was using the law to control population just like the Withers control population at spawn? That might also be why old players don't hate Letters the same way new players do. Old players understand that harsh leadership kept the server functioning, even if the methods were cruel. Now look at what's happening since Parrot became king. The old players still hate him according to the video, only new players support him. Why is that split so clear? Because old players see what's coming and new players don't. Old players remember when resources were available, when you could find diamonds without traveling thousands of blocks, when you could build a base without someone else already claiming the land. They know what happens when too many players exist on one server. The server lags, resources vanish, conflicts multiply, and everything collapses into chaos. New players don't see that yet because they just spawn in safely thanks to Parrot. They think he's a hero. They don't realize he's accidentally created a ticking time bomb. Let's talk about what happens in the next 100 days. More players keep spawning safely thanks to Parrot's infrastructure. The population keeps growing exponentially. Players start competing for the same diamond veins, the same ancient debris, the same chunks of land. Conflicts break out constantly because there's not enough resources to go around. The chicken farms can't produce enough food for thousands of players. The rebuild spawn gets overcrowded. Players start dying not from withers but from each other, from starvation, from resource scarcity. And here's the worst part, Parrot can't fix it. He can't bring resources back once they are mined. He can't create more land. He can't undo the exponential population growth he started. The server is already past the point of no return. Remember at the end of the video when Parrot says he doesn't care about who was responsible for the withers at spawn? That's the moment where he reveals he doesn't understand the system at all. He thinks the withers were just random griefing when they were actually the immune system of the server. Every organism needs an immune system to survive. The withers were Unstable SMP's immune system, keeping the population healthy by filtering out weak players. Parrot killed the immune system thinking he was saving people. But without an immune system, the server gets infected with overpopulation, and the infection spreads exponentially until the whole organism dies. Bro, this is what I studied biology for! Anyways, this is why Letters said the server was too far gone now and would never be united again. He saw exactly what would happen once population control got removed. The server would fracture into countless factions competing for scarce resources. Wars would break out constantly. Old players would turn hostile toward new players for consuming resources. The economy would collapse because diamonds lose value when nobody can find them anymore. Civilizations would rise and fall rapidly, and eventually players would stop joining entirely because the server would be unplayable, too laggy, too crowded, too chaotic. Parrot won the battle by becoming king and saving Spawn, but he lost the war by accidentally destroying the server's ability to sustain itself. Here's the dark truth that connects everything. Unstable SMP worked because it was brutal. The high death rate, the dangerous spawn, the constant wars, the ruthless factions, all of that filtered the population naturally, and kept resources available for the players who survived. Parrot tried to make the server kind and safe and welcoming. Those are good intentions, but good intentions don't matter when you break the fundamental systems that kept the server alive. Imagine asking a girl out, but she isn't interested in you at all, so you keep doing everything you can to try to get her to change her mind. This is basically what's happening with Parrot. He wanted to prove he was better than Letters, that he could protect people without being a ruthless dictator, and in trying to prove that, he guaranteed that the server Letters tried to protect would die anyway, just slower and more painfully than if Letters had stated power. By day 100, Parrot had created a kingdom built on exponential growth with no population control. That is the textbook definition of cancer. And just like how cancer kills the organism it grows in, Parrot's kingdom will kill Unstable SMP. The evidence is already there in the video. Exponential player growth, old players still hating him, Lettuce's warnings going unheeded, resources being consumed faster than ever, Parrot standing at the castle wondering why people use so many withers at spawn, still not understanding that those withers were the only thing preventing exactly what's happening now. He saved spawn and doomed the server. He became king and killed his kingdom. That's how Parrot is accidentally killing Unstable SMP. One good intention at a time. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe and let me know in the comments if you think Parrot can still fix this, or if the server is already doomed. And if you want to see more Unstable SMP breakdowns, check out the video on screen, where I find the strongest Unstable SMP player, and trust me, the answer will genuinely shock you. Anyways, goodbye!